We'll get back some figures and overview.
And welcome back to the New York City Half Marathon presented by Nike. We are live watching these runners take off from Central Park. We are just about the first mile, I think, is what they've got to be finishing now. It's about 4 minutes and 30 seconds we're looking at, aren't we, Larry?
Scott, you're an expert already. Right on. That's exactly right. About 4:30, 4:35 for the first mile. The park will be a little bit slower because of the hills in the park, but once they come out of that park, they will fly because the course starts at about 100 feet of elevation, stays that way for the first 6 miles, and then goes downhill, flat downhill, all the way to the finish line.
You were talking about before that we've had world record holders. In fact, Gebre Selassie, he was holding a world record out in Phoenix with the half marathon, and this was at 58 minutes and 55 seconds, I believe, and that was in Phoenix.
Insane pace, though, insane speed. And we're really going to see, I think, a tougher course here, so I don't expect it to be as fast. Weather, by the way, terrific for August in New York City. Low humidity, tailwind much of the time, 5 to 10 miles an hour, so it'll push the guys along gently. And 70, 72 degrees, 74, somewhere in there is expected for the bulk of the race. This is very good conditions.
Haile was dealing with very level plains when he was out in Phoenix.
He was.
Now they're dealing with hills as they deal with Central Park. In the first, well, I guess the first 7 miles, they're going into mile 8 when they finally get out of it. So I imagine once they get out of those hills, they'll be ready to go downhill and come to the finish.
We'll try and alert everybody. A lot of strategies going on in this race. I know the personalities. I've talked to them. I think a number of them are extremely fit to challenge Haile. And I think you'll see surging going on and people trying to read each other's body language as to the fitness level. Somebody goes for water, somebody will put on a break. There'll be all kinds of things to test the will of the runners, and we'll try and alert everybody to what will be going on.
Folks, there were over 17,000 applicants for this race. Just to give you an idea of how many people just want to run in this. This is a half marathon. This is 13.1 miles, 13,000 registered. There's a little over 10,000 running in this race. Half men, half women. And Larry, 73% of this field are New York City people. These are natives.
Right, this is it. And you know, they left the entries open for 1 month, Scott, this time, and they did it by lottery. They had such a rush late on in the show. There was 17,000 people that wound up applying for this whole event. And the New York Roadrunners, led by Mary Wittenberg and a great staff that she has working in this whole organization, want to make this the equivalent of the fall's New York City, ING New York City Marathon. And the goal will be to build this up in a huge way.
All right. Larry, the first mark on the first mile, we understand the split to be in 4:35. We talk about the world record pace of 4:30 at each mile marker, but a 4:35 is not a bad start, is it?
Not at all. It's very, very good and very solid considering, again, the rolling contour of Central Park. And what place has ever given a city more of a gift than in 1856 when the city of New York bought the land that became Central Park? I mean, did that bring sanity to this crazy city or what?
Well, you know, it's not a bad day to be running. I mean, we had some hot, humid weather here the last couple of days, but they've been given a break. It was about, I think, 72 degrees or so. The humidity was down here when they started this race. But as they continue here, I mean, you're talking about, I think, 10 fluid stations that they have. Over 500,000 cups of Gatorade. They need to be replenished here. 35,000 bottles of liquid refreshment and 440 portable toilets along the way.
I was going to say toilets, but yes, as the French would say. There'll be plenty of those out on the race course. Nike has 3 cheering zones. I'd like to just say hello. I told a couple of people who asked me to say hello to them. Alexis Lai is running his first marathon here in New York, and a woman I met who was a former West Pointer for a number of years, Amber Folger, who works for a media company in New York. We wish all in the pack that you're looking at now great success in this race.
They're aged from 13 to 87, 383 international runners, but we're talking about the bulk of these people are basically New Yorkers.
Right, and there are 35 countries represented by foreigners who have come to compete here in New York for this race. And the elite athletes, there are 60 athletes who have been invited to compete in the elite section, and 16 foreign countries represented among them.
How do you look at this, Larry, and how do they set these things up? We're going to be going to the leaders here. Here we are. These are the leaders as we set out. We were talking about rabbits, pace setters. These are the leaders right here, from what I understand, and what I've been told. Is that right?
Well, I think the top runners have already passed by. When I look at the runners who are here, these are not. This is among the very best runners, but the elites have already sped by this course. I might add here, New York Roadrunners have been pioneers here. Drug testing is going on among the elite athletes, conducted by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, will be held. And between $500,000 and $1 million, Scott, will be raised by these people you're seeing right here for the various 11 charities that have been authorized by the New York Roadrunners for the New York City Half Marathon presented by Nike.
We have people continuing here, Larry, just starting out right now. Now, how do they set those up? We know we have the top racers at the starting line. Women were there, men were there. The ones who are considered to be competitors, the best competitors in this race.
Let me give a generality of how it works across the country in really big races. If you think in a half marathon that you can average 6 minutes a mile, you get up closer to the front. Oftentimes there's signs sticking up there, 6-minute pace, stand here. 7-minute or 6:30 pace, stand back. What you don't want to do, terribly discouraging, Scott, is to think that you're going to get up there and run with the big dogs for a while when you're a 9-minute miler and you get up at the 6 or 7-minute pace area, and then you watch half the world go by you in the next 13 miles.
Well, we are 11 minutes and 19 seconds into this race. They've obviously passed the second mile in this race, in this 13.1 mile race that we have here. We'll be back with much more on this, the second annual Half Marathon, New York City. Brought to you by the New York Roadrunners and presented by Nike. We'll be back.